Taking a leap of faith is rarely simple, but with the right knowledge, perspective and support, it can be the most rewarding step you'll ever take. These entrepreneurs and experts from the healthcare, medical and wellness sector share what they've learnt when they stepped into the unknown. Welcome to The Leap. Imagine a healthcare workforce able to build thriving, sustainable practices, reduce financial stress and plan long-term careers and exits with clarity. This is the vision behind Hands on Money, a financial and business education platform for self-employed healthcare professionals. It was founded by Jane Greenshields and Melina Harrison, both working osteopaths who want to help clinic owners understand the business side of healthcare that so many clinicians are never taught. The platform offers free financial and business education, a paid membership and business development support, and an expert network of financial advisors, accountants, psychologists, insurance specialists and commercial property advisors. What makes Hands on Money especially interesting is that it's built by clinicians who have lived these challenges themselves, and uncertainty around money, pricing, growth, marketing, and what happens when you eventually want to step away from the business you've spent years building. Today, I'm joined by Jane, one half of Hands on Money, to learn more about the missing business education in healthcare. Jane Greenshields, welcome to The Leap. Thank you for joining us. So let's talk about your big leap into Hands on Money. So first of all, can you tell us a little bit more about what it is?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a support network specifically for self-employed hands-on therapists to help with any step in their journey. So money management, it's ensuring that they create a secure financial platform for every area of their life, if they want to take time off for a family, if they want to plan for retirement. And I think it's just the reassurance and support with our experts that it's never too late to make a difference. So it's a place where people can reach out, they can ask questions about anything to do with their financial health, and there'll be one of our experts, one of our team, to give them some great support and advice on that.
Excellent. That sounds like a much needed product in the industry.
We think so, yeah.
So as a working osteopath, what pushed you to build the platform on top of your clinical work? Was it one big moment that led you to start this project, or was it a series of points that led to it?
Definitely the latter. For my own personal experience as a graduate osteopath many years ago, I came out at 21 years old and had no financial skills whatsoever. And I really wish that somebody would have just taken hold of me and said, you need to sort out how much you're earning, you need to sort out how much you're spending, how much you need, how much have you put aside for your tax bill, and just get all of those ducks in a row. And again, how much are you investing for the future? Absolutely nothing. It was an absolute disaster. So yeah, that was part of it. And I think over the years, I've, as well as being an osteopath, I've had other businesses. I had a rehearsal recording studio. I did kids parties. So I've kind of learned a lot of business skills over the years. Melina, she graduated, she was 10 years older than me, and she wanted a family, and she was going to be a stay-at-home mum. And then, her life changed dramatically. Her husband couldn't work. He was very poorly, so she suddenly had to be the main breadwinner. So she went all in. She got the lease on the building. She got in 5 employees, just absolutely straight in. She wanted to start building that business and learn without any support, any guidance. And I know that she's made mistakes, but she's very focused and driven, so she made it work.
So you've told us a little bit about Hands on Money. What was the point where you and Melina came together and decided to form it, and why?
We could see that a lot of people were struggling financially for lots of different reasons. They didn't have financial provisions in for later life. Some people were putting this on social media, so they weren't even able to put their tax money aside. They certainly not investing money. And so we saw this need, and we felt that with all of our experiences that we could really offer massive amount of support to people that were struggling, and something that we felt is hugely missing within the world of self-employment generally. I mean, we are staying in our lane in terms of therapists, excuse me, because that's what we understand. But yeah, maybe later on move to support other self-employed people. But I think there's a shocking statistic of something like only 12% of self-employed people have a pension. So it's things like that. We really want to help people get their ducks in a row to be able to sleep at night. And actually as well, I said to Mel, I don't believe that you bring your best self into the clinic if you are worried about your finances. If that's on the back of your mind, it's so closely linked to what we do, because so often we're in a clinic environment where how many patients you see is reflective of how much you earn, and that can be a little bit uncomfortable if you're in a caring profession, and then suddenly that you're expected to talk about money, which can seem a bit vulgar, I suppose. It's certainly not in our culture and society as well. It's not something that's done. So we kind of blowing the lid off that and hoping that we get people really talking about money, about their fears, their concerns, and how we can bring that together and help their plan. Everyone's got a different plan. Everyone's got different needs that they want for the future. So, yeah.
No, I think it's a really interesting project. I mean, the amount of business owners that I speak to who come to me to get a valuation or look for exit planning advice, when I assess their business, it's quite surprising when you calculate what they're paying themselves versus what a fair replacement cost would be. There's a huge discrepancy. Yeah. And it's quite obvious that a lot of these business owners aren't actually focusing on the financial side for themselves.
Yeah,
they're looking to obviously pay their team well, look after their patient, but the financial side is somewhat of an afterthought.
Yeah. I mean, we're really looking forward to working with you as well to build that, to show people where the shortfall is, as you say, how much they're actually paying themselves. Is that enough to live on? And yeah, does that affect the value of the business?
And did you go through that as well, or Melina? So are you coming at this project from a position of when you were running practices, you perhaps weren't paying yourself properly, and then there was a light bulb moment where you realised that you should be, and that's did that lead to where you are now?
For me, that was such a different journey. It was about, I was a long time ago, I was just catastrophic with money, and I think that was this massive self-worth issue tied up with that, and also it was outside influences which I allowed to dictate my finances, I guess relationships and stuff like that. So it was kind of starting the journey of digital marketing was actually the turning point for me, because that really made me put myself in the spotlight. Suddenly, as soon as you have a business, it's about selling yourself. And that's just like, wow, I don't know if I can do this kind of thing. So that was a real growth in my, sort of self-worth kind of thing. So it was building on that. And then I think just starting to really look at money, spreadsheets, getting a spreadsheet. How much am I earning? How much am I spending? What's left? And that was a bit of a shock, actually. I think there's a negative there. There's something wrong here. I can see there's a problem. And once you see that there's a problem, whilst deep down when you actually see it in writing, the seriousness of that problem, you can take action. So from that point, starting to make up the shortfall. What do I need to earn? What do I need to get rid of? What do I not need in my life at this point? What can I live without? And then balancing it. And actually, it's quite exciting once you see the shift from negative to positive and building through it that way. So that was my own personal journey. That's why I realised just how incredibly important it is to look at it hard and see where you're absolutely at in your life with money. And then if you don't know how much you've got left, you don't know how much to invest. And then if you don't know how much to invest, you can't secure a future. So that I feel is the centre, the core of everything that we do. And once you have, I say disposable income, but then you have options to how you're going to really suddenly make the money that you work really hard for, how you're going to get the best out of it. I mean, Mel's not here, but we joke about this, but she's like, I could just cry when I think, she's she has 2 daughters, and we were talking about this. She put in £300 a month into an account for the girls when they were born up until they went off to university. And she said it was like a 1% high street interest rate. When she looks at how she could have invested that differently, when you look at the numbers, it's shocking. I mean, it's like 6 times more money she could have had. It's when you look at the compounding interest, and And also when you compare that to the interest rate, you're saving at 1%, you're essentially losing money at that rate. You're not even keeping up with inflation. So it's quite shocking. And it's conversely, it's been great talking to our financial advisors, so showing us all of how if you invest your money differently, how it's suddenly above the rate of inflation. So how you can make your 10,000 worth 15,000 10 years down the line, or it can be worth, you can do nothing with it and your 10,000 effectively gets you £7,000 worth if you don't do anything with it.
It seems to be a major gap in our knowledge base as clinicians. Do you think that these topics should be covered at university, at degree level?
Yeah, we are actually in talks with HSU at the moment to come in and hopefully support their students. So literally make it part of their clinic. So they'll have a day in clinic. And then at the end of the day in clinic, we're going to discuss with them, how many patients have you seen? How much have you earned? How much do you have to give back to the clinic if you are working for somebody else? How much tax do you have to pay on that? What's left for you? All of the things that we've just covered, really. So make really impressing on graduates, if you are going into self-employment, you have to think about all of these things. This is, the difference between employed and self-employed is massive. You get pensions contributions, which you don't get as self-employed. You get your tax paid, you know what's left. So really supporting and bringing home how valuable that is to learn at this stage.
What was your experience on your osteopathy course? So when I did my physio degree, there was very little business advice. It was very much NHS focused. I learned everything that I needed to know about finances on the go. Was that the same for your degree?
Yeah, we had nothing. We had an accountant come in one day. That was fine, and I guess we signed up with him because we got familiar with him, but he didn't teach us a massive amount, I think. And after that, I remember going into the bank and bearing in mind, you come out of college tens of thousands of pounds in debt. Most of us do anyway. And it's so big, you just think, it's just sitting on my shoulder over there. We can't even think about that. And with that debt, I went into the bank and the man said, "Have you got a pension?" No, I ain't got a pension. I'm 22, whatever. So he says, "Right, well, if you want to start a pension, you need to be putting at least a third of your income into a pot." It's like, you must be joking. I couldn't put £3 into a pot at the moment. But I wish at that point someone had said, actually, start putting £3 in a pot. Because if you just do that and leave it alone and let it work its magic, suddenly 10 years down the line, I'll put a bit more in. It's just making a start and having that encouragement.
Absolutely. And the in the conversations that you've had with graduates coming out of university now, do you think that gap has narrowed? Are they getting any more education in this field, or
No.
is it as it was?
I think it's as it was. I know that we've been chatting to Patrick Gautier from HSU, and he's great. He's really proactive about starting to bring this education in. The it is available, but you have to seek it. You have to look for it. And I think
it's not freely offered, basically.
Exactly, yeah. So we are creating the platform with lots of free education. You can ask our experts anything, that we're there to help. So in the process of doing this, so we have our closed Facebook group, and the questions are, what do you hope to get out of Hands on Money? And also we ask them how long they've been graduated, and the whole gamut, anyone from who's just graduated to been doing it 40 years, and they still want financial support. That still is their answer for joining Hands on Money, that they want guidance. They want to exit. They want their exit strategy plan. They want to have a family. They don't know how to do it. So there's a huge need for it, for sure.
So what are some of the kind of the core areas that you're supporting through Hands on Money? So we talked about pensions, which is obviously a very critical long-term saving strategy.
Yeah.
Presumably you can give some advice around things like ISAs, which is a very tax-efficient mechanism. What other topics are you commonly upskilling people on the platform?
In bookkeeping and accounting and tax, just learning how to present it. We are also working with a commercial property expert, so he's going to teach people how to negotiate a lease, just to make sure you don't get stuck with a full repairing insuring lease on a grade 2 listed building that suddenly you're responsible for because it looks nice, it's on the high street. It's just understanding what is your responsibility. So again, that's going to save people a huge amount of money if they understand that from the start, and just to know that yes, you can actually negotiate the price on a lease and a purchase. We are going to be looking at money mindset, which we touched on earlier, about sort of self-worth and how linked that is to money.
Do you think there's an element of imposter syndrome in the profession?
Oh, huge. And I think that, as I said, as soon as you have a product that you're selling, as a therapist, you have to be a salesperson as well. And if you've got imposter syndrome as a therapist, which you might well have early on in your career, then how are you going to promote yourself when you're not quite confident enough at your career to suddenly say, yeah, I'm great, this is good. So there's a lot of that tied up. You
trained in digital marketing. Why did you choose to do that, and how has that helped you with what you're doing today?
This is an odd one. I had, even though I'd done some digital marketing with no training before for the previous business that I mentioned, we had a rehearsal recording studio, so I just fumbled my way through that. I had no intention of doing digital marketing, but my sister wanted to do it. She's one of our experts. She's a psychologist, she's an art therapist, and she wanted to grow that business. So she was doing a 3-day event on digital marketing, and she could bring a +1. So she just brought me along, and I thought, I love this. I think I really liked it. I guess because there's questions and answers, there's solutions, and I really liked the flow because I had some knowledge of it, but it was all jumbled. It was really great to have somebody building blocks in the foundation of my knowledge that I already had and build up to that. But then after that, so then I had this product. So I thought, great, I'd really like to do websites for therapists because I understand, how they need to look, the colour, the content, the presentation. But then I had to sell it. And that one, suddenly I have to approach people and say, yes, the imposter syndrome, yeah, I'm good at this, and ring people, and that was painful for me, to just come out of my shell and suddenly have to ring people and say, can I do a website for you, and build up my personal profile and get myself out there. So that was a real massive growth in personal development for me, talking to people, communicating, cold calling, all the things that are uncomfortable, very uncomfortable, but so necessary.
You mention discomfort, and we've touched on this briefly already, but a lot of practice owners seem to have this real discomfort around money, conversations around money, pricing, profit, charging more. Where do you think that comes from in healthcare, and how do we coach people through that?
I think this is sort of a brutally honest answer. I think because with manual therapy, at the moment, there's no right and wrong answers. So whilst there's all of your clinical skills and clinical training, no patient fits perfectly. So you're not going to find that patient in a book. So you're not necessarily, you might get it wrong and that patient gets worse. And it's quite tough to take that on board. And I think that with that in mind, it can be quite soul destroying. Depends on your character type perhaps, and it sort of resonates with me. And then you think, how can I then pull people in and promote myself in case I do that again? Do you know what I mean? You've been a therapist yourself, you kind of understand, and I think that's maybe what stops people, because Mel quite often says, I have absolutely no problem promoting any of you that work in my clinic. You're great, you're absolutely great, but she can't promote herself, and she's really confident, really out there, but she does struggle to promote herself. So
It's interesting. As I say, it comes back to this confidence, self-worth, imposter syndrome point that we referred to earlier.
Massively, yeah. I think it's hugely tied up in there. And yeah, I think if you're a sole practitioner, it's even more acute. I think when you're in a group of people, then you can say, okay, this happened, I've done this, what can I do different? How can I manage the situation? So the outcome is not as bad, but sometimes when you're on your own in the clinic and you think, oh my God, that was terrible, I feel awful now. And that can make it really hard to sort of promote yourself.
And how do you think we can coach people through that to become a bit more comfortable, valuing what they do, charging correctly, having those conversations about money?
It's definitely community. It's supporting each other through community, saying, what could I do different next time? How do you manage the situation? Then you suddenly feel more confident about what you do. In terms of charging more, Mel is very proactive about that. She makes a point of being the most expensive clinic in the area. And there's a sort of psychology of that people think because it's expensive, it's better. So she's quite happy to charge the extra money. How do we coach people to do that? What we offer is really valuable. You know, for the one time it's gone wrong, don't focus on that. Focus on all the things, all the great things that you've done, how many patients you've really helped. I think that's just it, encouraging each other, maybe as a community, saying, well, this is the standard, this is the level that we should be charging, this is what we're worth because we're offering this level of clinical skill and advice. And, you know, quite often, I guess it's happened to so many of us in clinic, we've spotted something that's absolutely not musculoskeletal and changed someone's life. You know, what we offer is incredible. I mean, even I was chatting to someone about this the other day, that somebody that I know was painting the ceiling, had a really horrendous headache afterwards, but was panicking. Oh, it can only be either a brain tumour or some sort of aneurysm that's about to explode. I'm going to go, I'm going to go to the hospital, I'm going to go to the doctor, and of course they went through all of that, and it was just that they had a bit of a muscle strain in their neck causing them a headache, which was sorted in 10 minutes. And that's the value of what we have. We've all been in those situations. Someone's had chronic pain and we've helped. So what value is that? They've seen many different people. We have so much to offer. So don't underestimate your skill as a practitioner.
Do you think part of the problem might be that obviously you've got insurance companies that are pushing prices down, which I guess sort of anchors our prices to a lower price point, and obviously with many of the services that osteos, physios, other MSK practitioners offer, also available free through the NHS. Do you feel that there's a bit of a challenge charging for those services, or do you think that's part of the psychological problem for practitioners or business owners?
No, because the waiting lists for NHS care are certainly in my area, they're long. You know, there's a lot of people who've just, put their back out. They want sorted then and there. And as private practitioners, we can offer that. That's what you pay for. You pay for the speed, you pay for the expertise, you pay for not having to go book an appointment with your GP, which is a mission in itself in a lot of areas. And then you've got to wait to see the physio, and then you've got to wait, for the next level of care. So, no, I think our value is in getting people back to work quickly. Especially if they're self-employed. They need the money. They can't afford to be out of work for long.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. When I've had conversations with people around pricing, there's always a lot of nervousness around putting prices up. My personal view is that patients are typically choosing MSK services in the private sector based on availability and quality. I think they are the key primary drivers, and then price is not unimportant, but less of the deciding factor.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that, or have you got a different?
No, I absolutely agree with that. I do struggle to put my prices up as well. Mel will shout at me for saying that, but it is important. it is important to keep on top of that.
Do you think that a lot of practitioners joining the profession, do you think they are motivated by making money, or do you think they go into the profession for other reasons?
Oh, absolutely, to help people. And I think that's where we get the money issues, the gap there, because
It's not their core motivation, essentially.
Absolutely not. No, and it certainly wasn't mine either. You know, I went into the profession with a genuine need and want to help people, and even I love it. You know, and I think I love my job more now because I've got everything financially sorted. So I go to work with a clear head, and I'm doing the job that I really love doing, and I'm not working full time, which is great. I don't have to, and I enjoy that. That suits me because I know that I absolutely bring my best self into the clinic, because I'm not thinking, oh gosh, I've got this to pay, I've got that to pay. It's just not even on my radar. I'm absolutely 100% in the room with that person, and it's great. It feels good, actually. I know that, and I know it's reciprocated. It's a real energy thing, isn't it?
It is. By the time a clinician comes to Virillo to sell their business, a lot of what they've done is already set. What can hands-on money do in the 5 or 10 years prior to that point to make their exit easier and their business more valuable? And in particular, what are the benefits of peer-led business education, so being part of a community, alongside specialist advice?
I think the most important thing is absolutely understanding what your profit margin is in that business. And then once you understand what your profit is, what you can then do with that money to make it work hard for you. So investing it correctly, making sure your pension is in place.
So how does the peer-to-peer education work alongside the specialist advice? Do you think that adds another element to what hands-on money can give to its members?
Yeah, absolutely. I think our goal is to create a community of people who are all there striving to improve their business success. So our job is to understand what their goal is, to create a really strong community of support within the community itself, aside from the education. So obviously we have all the education available to improve that, but our role is just that you can walk into this community and everybody's happy to talk about numbers, to talk about the business, to talk about what worked for them. So we all learn and bounce off each other. And then obviously the individual service is, what actually do you need? Because everyone's situation is different. So, you know, your situation is different to my situation, is different to Mel's situation. So what I would need is very different to what Mel would need at this stage. So Mel is planning an exit strategy with her clinic. I perhaps am going to grow my clinic, change how I work, you know, lease a building. So it's whatever your business goal is that we're going to, you know, work and tailor for you. But I think equally, the community is incredibly powerful, the energy that it brings, and that there's no question that's too silly. Don't be embarrassed. You know, we had a webinar the other day with our financial advisor, and there was a lady there that was 55 years old, and she actually used the word, I'm embarrassed because I haven't started a pension. Well, great, we're here to help with that. Don't be embarrassed. You know, really don't be. That's why we're here. We've got a financial advisor to say, if you have money now moving forward, what's the best way to invest it? Just start. I think it's just take action is the most important thing.
Yeah, I think those shared experiences are really powerful, and they may actually help build confidence within the community. I think it's a really excellent project. So we recently shared that Virillo and Hands on Money are partnering up, and we're starting that partnership by launching 2 webinars together. Mm-hmm. The first one on maximising the value of your clinic, which is going to go ahead in June, and the second one around the process of selling your clinic, which we'll do in July. Mm-hmm. What are you hoping that your members will take away from those 2 webinars and the partnership that we've got together?
Absolutely, just to look at their clinic, at its value, how to make it more valuable, how to make their clinic a real asset moving forward. And so with your knowledge, because you know, as we mentioned before, that people are not paying themselves enough. Why are they not paying themselves enough? So getting there early and understanding what makes a clinic valuable, and putting those structures in place as soon as we know, once we've had that education, once we've looked at the clinic, what its profit is, what its loss is, what its unnecessary expenses are, where we can really boost that profit margin to make the clinic a really valuable asset if and when they decide to sell it.
It's quite interesting because I've done a lot of talks and a lot of articles recently on what makes your business more valuable and more saleable. And often those particular points are the same as what makes it a better business to run and makes it more financially viable for you prior to sale. So there's a lot of crossover with an exit strategy and effectively building better foundations in the business.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good. So looking back at when you first started, what advice would you give yourself now? And if a clinic owner listening only takes one action after this conversation, what should that be? I'm trying to digest all of your knowledge into a single bit of advice. I appreciate it's very difficult.
I invest in education. It is the best investment you can make. Invest in knowledge about your business, your profit, your tax, insurance. Just make sure that you really understand that. What sort of business have you got? Are you a sole trader, limited company? And if you need help, I think probably the biggest advice is if you're worried, if you need help, ask. Just reach out and ask. Don't suffer in silence. Don't sit there worrying and thinking, I'll deal with that later. I'll come back to that. Look at it now. It's never too late to start, but it's really so much better to start immediately. Just taking action, doing something to secure your future, to protect your future.
So reach out, learn, and start early.
Yep.
Excellent. So how do you juggle the mental load needed to launch this huge platform at the same time as continuing to work as an osteopath?
I work part-time because I have structured my diary, my clinic. It works for me, so I can happily work part-time.
Like works for you.
It works for me, and we just love it. We get so excited about this project. We get really excited when, someone's come to our platform and we've helped them. We've had a webinar, they've asked a question and it's great. They've got a great answer. They've spoken to one of our experts. So it's a real boost to us, and it wouldn't be the first time that Mel and I have texted each other with a great idea at 6:30 on a Sunday morning, and I'll answer it. I don't care. We love the project, and we know how much support we can provide for people.
Finally, what piece of kit, information, tool or advice do you think is essential for anyone considering their own leap of faith and going into business?
Do not listen to the voices in your head. If you're going to say, if business is for other people, I can't do that. Everything is achievable. Set a goal and go for it, and just ignore the voices. Just go for it. It is cringy. It's embarrassing. Selling yourself is uncomfortable. It sure is. But you've got to just get past that point and keep going. Keep taking steps. Keep moving forward all the time. Keep learning. Keep growing. Talk to lots of people. Communicate. And yes, and it's a little bit of ego, letting go of the ego, and be afraid to get something wrong, to say the wrong thing. You're only going to learn one way.
I fully agree. I think there's some very important lessons there. Lots of things that our members can hopefully take from that, and I think it's a really important project. Jane, thank you very much for joining us. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
If you've enjoyed this episode of The Leap, don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss future conversations. Follow Virillo on LinkedIn for more insight, advice and honest thinking on the realities of buying, selling and growing clinics. And if today's conversation has got you thinking about a leap of your own, remember, it's rarely simple, but with the right perspective and support, it can be the most rewarding step you'll ever take. This is The Leap from Virillo. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.